PCs and NPCs alike. This is Robert James Fremantle, and I was inspired by a video that Ander Wood made recently talking about mechanics and at what point they get too complex. It had already been discussed, the nucleus of this, I believe, a while back, and I don't think I came in on it then either, but I certainly have some things to say, and that really is the issue of roleplay versus mechanics, because if you're talking about mechanics being sort of too crunchy, just too much, then you have to look at then what that does to the balance of the roleplay. So I'm going to approach it from an old angle, examining the two. So I've got my notes in front of me here, because this is quite a complex issue in of itself. What is roleplay? Pretending to be someone else, living vicariously in another's shoes to experience events and encounters outside of your own expectant life path? Probably, yes. Is it healthy? Do you think? I do. We all imagine being someone else from time to time, and often we reverse this imagining about like someone else being us. Sad movies, and people sometimes cry and things like that, or well up. It makes them imagine that person's situation as theirs, right? And it makes them consider factors of their own lives which they wouldn't be able to open the door to in their normal living day-to-day processes, would they? So it sort of helps them get in touch with their emotions. It's good for us. It helps us see outside of ourselves, empathise for other people. It helps us self-evaluate for the purpose of improvement in the long run, really, for us and us as a species. Right, so, versus mechanics. What are they? A way of making the game work, right? A means of physical personification of your character, and a fair way to account for variables that are offshoots from your conduct in game. Most often, commonly, this is by a dice system, of course, but not always, and many successful ideas have broken the dice mould, and will continue to do so in the future. Alright, variables then, which is what the mechanics create. Why do we need them? Well, variables occur in real life. Sometimes things happen out of our control, or sometimes the effect of things happening are not to the degree that we expected, be they less or more being a crit, of course, and less being a fail, without our control being able to stop them always, yeah? And, you know, you could have certain skills that can lessen that chance in real life. It won't always. Certain factors will kick in, and furthermore, your character won't necessarily have the skills that you have. He's not you, remember. You are role-playing him. You need something to help you define who he is outside of you. Because if you're completely left to try and portray him in every single way, that's going to be a bit much for you. So the mechanics are there to give you an aid, really, in helping to be him full-time at the table, when you're really only used to being you. So, why do we need mechanics at all versus just role-playing? Can't it all be done with just the mind? Well, I don't want to offend anyone with this, alright? So, but I'm going to say it as I see it. If you just had the roleplay element without the mechanics at all, without some sort of ruling system, and it doesn't have to be dice and even a necessarily completely randomizer type system, but a system of some sort. If you didn't have that, then I personally would liken it to it being like a children's game. This sort of make-believe thing, you know, like an episode of Rugrats. You know, when you got kids playing gun games or whatever, cowboys and Indians, and we get pew pew, I shot you, and then the kids sort of taking cover and looking around the corner and shouting back, "No, you didn't! You didn't shoot me! Yes, I did! I shot you! I got you right on target!" You know, or sometimes they go along with it and sometimes they don't. Well, there's no argument with mechanics, is there? You know, it's black and white, and that's what that's there for, because we aren't children anymore. We don't just want to play. I mean, would you sit down with chess and play without the rules and say, well, my pawn will go forward like this and we do this, and you know, I'll make about 5 goes like this and then you do something, but you know, my knight doesn't have to move in ours, he can just do whatever, because knights actually charge forwards. And that'd be cool. Let's tell a story on the chessboard. You want to enjoy a game of strategy play, and in some mechanics that allows you to actually do that too. So like mechanics where there's cover systems, you know, and if you're using miniatures, and yes, you know, I'm a big advocate for miniatures in board games. To me, they don't cause any trouble to the roleplay factor, because I separate them from a point of view, and I can, you know, really see myself in on both levels simultaneously. It's just something my group and I can do, and it works for us as a group. It may not be able to work for you, but you know, you say, oh, I want to move from A to B because B's got cover and A hasn't. Let's just say you were playing like a Star Wars role-playing game, and you know, a nice little overview of ship corridors, and with those little niches in the sides, and you know, stormtroopers are coming in and they're all pew 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 at you, and you know, standing out in the open firing back, or going to a little niche and then you've got the typical Star Wars lean around the corner and fire at them kind of thing going on. And you know, the mechanics actually helping you. In that case, the mechanics are actually aiding the feel of the world, because they do take cover and they do get hit less by taking cover in those niches, returning fire like that. You know, it hits the cover instead of them. It helps you feel like you're part of the world, and it helps you feel like the decisions you are making, the choices you are making, are actually affecting the world in an important way, which is why computer games basically haven't taken over role-playing completely, because the choices we can make are not completely our own. You know, we are still limited. We can't say, oh, what if I combine this with this and tie that onto this and make a grapple hook out of it? Well, the computer game will say, you don't have a grappling hook. Yeah, but look, I've got a piece of metal like that and I've got a rope. I can make a grappling hook. The computer game says, you don't have a grappling hook. Right, but, and that is the thing. The RPG, if you can dream it, you can try it. Yeah, so anyway, I've demonstrated one way that mechanics are indeed important. However, too many mechanics make the whole process feel technical and removed from actual play inspiration of what you are portraying. So, like anything, it comes down to balance. But I'm going to say on the record, one is certainly not more important than the other. The idea of a good character with a good setting has to be up there 50%, exactly alongside the 50% of a good system to allow that character to work in a plausible, enjoyable way. Or else, again, you know, you're just being kids going, pew pew, I shot you. Now, a good mechanic system should keep you involved with your play. Okay, those dice rolls should enhance and continue your game rather than being the bit you do when fighting happens, which is not so cool. I said before that one great way to handle skill checks mechanics is to have people roll, and indeed you could roll for them if it's like awareness checks of some sort, but if you want them to roll, have people roll and have the results of what they're rolling pre-written out. Go into the module itself, take a highlighter pen and, you know, write round the box, if you're that way inclined, of the bit that they need to know, and then hand the book straight to them. I do this, and then I let the player explain the results of what he has found, noticed, seen, heard, knowledge-based check of whatever. Oh, by the way, this architecture actually is such and such period, meaning that the people that lived here before, that means the type of openings will lead to blah, 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 and this will help. And it's actually the player that breaks it, not the GM. You know, that then allows the mechanics to then feed the roleplay. So there are ways to let the mechanics feed the roleplay, and you know, that's a good way, and I tend to just grab the highlighter and do that just to be quick, because speed's very important as well. You've got to capture energy. Yes, you shouldn't need to keep checking a rulebook all of the bloody time. I feel that any role status modifications should come from and be amended on that which is in front of the players all the time. Okay, so the character sheet would be the main thing. Maybe a tiny reference card like that. Like the sort of things you get in Dragon Age with just the stunts written on, which are really good. They could be integrated onto a character sheet, and indeed have been on our character sheets that we use. Then they're of course personalised as well, because you get stunts for different values depending on your class and spec and all the other things, so then you do need your own personal stunt sheet anyway. Things that are in front of you, or on the GM screen even, so that the GM has access to it, so he can tell the players, oh okay, yeah, this is such and such. You know, having to keep going to the book. And if you can't do those things, either a little side thing, character sheet, or GM screen, then I would say it's probably a crunchy rule. Okay, so now we move on to crunchy rules. Let's examine them. Rules that are potentially, I'm not going to state it completely, potentially too complex for their own good, perhaps. Alright, well, the negative in highly complex rules is that they slow the game down and hence slow down the flow of table energy, which you desperately need to operate as a GM in a manner that satisfies you. Because, you know, GMing isn't always necessarily about knowing the rules well, playing the game well. It's about coming away from the table feeling that you've enjoyed the process. And usually, as a GM, you're not going to have enjoyed it if your players haven't. So you need them to be giving you happy energy to make you give it back and create a mutual experience. Now, there is a positive to complex rules. A further chance at variable statuses, more akin to real-life experience. You have to consider that, you know, the more things you can do with the game, the more things could be done. Well, you know, I've been working with Craig and Jez, and I've mentioned this before about Imperium, a game, a system that we've done a bit of play testing on, and you know, they really need to pull their fingers out and do some more. But that system, I know, seamlessly handles such problems very, very quickly indeed, empowers the GM to make those decisions very, very quickly without having to keep referring to a rulebook. You'll have to look out for an announcement video of that when it's ready at some upcoming time, and then you'll see what I mean by the GM empowering system. I certainly know that there are solutions to this balance, and that makes me hopeful for a future, really, of great systems, thoughtful creators, and energetic community supporting it, like I know you are, and like I know is out there. It's not a definitive answer. It just really comes down to the two are equally important, and these are all considerations to make when you're building your own system. Well, these are some of my personal thoughts, and you know, I've opened the door to them there. I'll leave that with you, the community. Feel free to comment underneath on what you think. You know, it's okay if you disagree with me as well. We can agree to disagree, or we can just agree to agree. It's, either way, you know, we're all still RPG Brigade gaming buddies, and Brigade means the people that make the videos and the people that watch the videos. Remember that. We are all Brigade. We are all the gamers. So, until the next time, I'll see you at the table.